What is reality? Countless brainiacs and psychedelia enthusiasts have pondered that question for centuries, formulating theories that run the gamut from scientific to mystical. From a purely empirical standpoint, the answer seems obvious. Reality is anything we can perceive using one or more of the five senses: taste, smell, touch, hearing, and sight. But some outside-the-box thinkers, including philosophers and physicists, contend that's not necessarily the case. It is possible, they theorize, that reality is merely an ultra-high-tech computer simulation in which we sim-live, sim-work, sim-laugh, and sim-love. Do we live in a simulation? The question of if we live in a simulated universe has been hotly debated since the Enlightenment period. There is no definitive answer, but simulation theory posits the universe as we know it is an advanced digital construct overseen by some higher form of intelligence. From the time it entered popular consciousness, many have noted that simulation theory is essentially a modern offshoot of Plato's allegory of the cave story from the ancient Greek philosopher's book The Republic, and René Descartes' evil demon hypothesis from the French philosopher and scientist's first meditation. Both contain ruminations on perception and the nature of being, subjects that continue to puzzle and provoke. What is simulation theory? So, what does all of this mean? If we take the red pill and step through the looking glass, simulation theory posits that we are all likely living in an extremely powerful computer program. Think, The Matrix. It sounds far-fetched, but Swedish philosopher Nick Bostrom showed in 2003 that it's more probable than one might think. In his seminal paper titled, Are You Living in a Computer Simulation? Bostrom argued that if humans are able to survive thousands of years to reach a post-human state, one in which we have acquired most of the technological capabilities consistent with physical laws and material and energy constraints, it's likely that they would have the capabilities to run ancestral simulations. And the odds are, we are products of that simulation. Other philosophers have expanded on Bostrom's argument. New York University philosophy professor David Chalmers has described the being responsible for this hyperrealistic simulation we may or may not be in as a programmer in the next universe up, perhaps one we mortals might consider a god of some sort, though not necessarily in the traditional sense. They may just be a teenager, Chalmers said, hacking on a computer and running 5 universes in the background. But it might be someone who is nonetheless omniscient, all-knowing, and all-powerful about our world. Brain spinning yet? Get used to it. The theory also builds on the argument philosophers have been having for centuries, which is that we can never know if what we're seeing is a real. Simply because we perceive the world as a real and material, doesn't mean that it is so, said Rizwan Virk, a tech entrepreneur and author of the simulation hypothesis. In fact, the findings of quantum physics may shed some doubt on the fact that the material universe is real. The more that scientists look for the immaterial in the material world, the more they find that it doesn't exist. Virk mentioned the renowned physicist John Wheeler, who worked with Albert Einstein decades ago. In his lifetime, Wheeler said, physics had evolved from the premise that everything is a particle to everything is information. He also coined a phrase that's well known in scientific circles, it from bit, meaning everything is based on information. Even the definition of a particle in physics is kind of fuzzy, Virk added, and may be in fact just be a qubit, a quantum computing bit. Even more mind-meltingly, theoretical physicist David Bohm once posed this tortuous notion: reality is what we take to be true. What we take to be true is what we believe. What we believe is based upon our perceptions. What we perceive depends on what we look for. What we look for depends on what we think. What we think depends on what we perceive. What we perceive determines what we believe. What we believe determines what we take to be true. What we take to be true is our reality. Deep breath. And what we take to be true, more than a few folks believe, among them tech entrepreneur Elon Musk, who famously said the odds that we're not simulated are 1 in billions, might now or at least someday be merely the effect of simulated brains and nervous systems processing a simulated world. To Musk's unique way of thinking, the strongest argument for our probably being in a simulation is that, as he put it in 2016, 40 years ago, we had Pong, 2 rectangles, and a dot. That is what games were. Now, 40 years later, we have photorealistic 3D simulations with millions of people playing simultaneously, And it's getting better every year. And soon we'll have virtual reality, augmented reality. If you assume any rate of improvement at all, the games will become indistinguishable from reality.